Let me explain my story to you. About 4 years ago now, I met this guy. He wasn't just any guy either. He was my dream guy. Okay? What I mean by dream guy is that he was literally everything I asked for specifically, which was a man who had happily married parents. I wanted him to be a certain age. I wanted him to have a certain zodiac sign. I wanted him to care about the well-being of the Black community. And to top it off, I wanted him to have been made just for me. This is what I prayed for. This is what I felt throughout my body. This is what I wanted. And he showed up. Okay? So I met this guy and it was like heaven. I was so attracted to him, to the way he carried himself. He was very manly. He was the traditional type, so he opened every door for me before entering. We went on dates always. We always tried new things. He bought me gifts all the time. He was extremely romantic. We went on plenty of getaways. I never had to take my wallet out. We had no issues with lying or cheating, and visually, we looked so freaking good together, okay? I mean, everywhere we went, somebody was complimenting us on being such a good-looking couple. He was also a motivational speaker and helped lots of people in their personal lives. My coworkers would be like, ooh, where your husband at today? And I'd be like, y'all so crazy. We spent hours just talking the night away. I'm talking from 9 p.m. when he got off of work until 7 a.m. the next morning, doing absolutely nothing but talking. So about a month later, he took me to this romantic setting by the water and expressed his feelings for me and asked if I wanted to be his lady. This is my dream, man. So of course I said, heck yes, okay. And he even gave me a commitment ring. We spent basically all of our time together to the point where I started to notice that I had no life outside of him. And it was mainly due to the fact that he believed that we should see each other every day, no matter what we got going on, no matter nothing. Not only that, but I began to get sucked into doing and being exactly who he wanted me to be. He was an extremely religious person, and I am not. I don't necessarily like putting titles on it, but if I had to use a word to describe myself, it would be spiritual. It has always been my greatest heart's desire all of my life to be in alignment with God and His perfect will for my life, okay? Nothing more, nothing less. That's what I seeked. So he started asking me to go to church with him, and I would always say no. Now the reason I would say no is because I didn't feel it as a genuine invite to just go and listen to a sermon. I felt like he wanted to convert me back into that lifestyle, since that is what he was about. But of course, after so much begging, I finally said yes. He believed in never missing a Sunday, girl, so that's what we did. Every Sunday, we at church, okay? And church after church, we would get called out all the time by the prophets, and they'd give a prophecy basically hinting that we are husband and wife. So I'm like, shoot, this is further confirmation that I have met the love of my life. If God said it, then it must be real. If God said it, the prophet said God said it. So at this point, no matter what, my focus is to do what's necessary to keep our relationship, okay? But we clashed all the time, especially when discussing spiritual things. We both believed in the Bible, but his interpretations of it were extremely literal, while mine were not. He saw God as being more so in a box, so we could never see eye to eye on things. But eventually, to keep the peace, I allowed myself to believe how he believed, or I attempted to, just so we can have peace. I literally dismissed my own perspectives and conformed to his. It got to a point where I was even afraid to just speak my own mind because my perceptions were rejected and dismissed anyway. He didn't like me listening to anything other than gospel, so I stopped. Girl, I even let my Michael Jaxn go. I was never a hard drinker. I've never even been drunk before. I do, however, enjoy a nice wine or even some wine coolers or a mimosa or something like that, but he ain't like that either, so I stopped. He hated the idea of me having male friends or even talking to other males for that matter. Quick story. One day I went to visit him at his job. I didn't see him at the front like he usually is, so I asked his coworker where he was. He said he just stepped to the back for a minute and it should be back up soon. So my boyfriend, he noticed me talking to his coworker, and when he finally came to where I was, He was like, he had attitude. It wasn't even a real greeting. He was like, why you just ain't call me? You ain't have to ask him nothing. You could have just called me. And I'm like, I'm confused. Like, what the heck? And we literally got into a whole argument about that. So of course, me trying to keep the peace, trying to fall in line, I tried to keep my distance as much as possible from other men. I felt like I was cheating just by looking at him, man. He made negative comments about the way that I dressed and tried to be slick about some of them too. He didn't think that a woman should work her arms out at the gym, so I stopped. Leg day every day. I started to become afraid of hanging out with my friends because he felt like time out with the girls means time to find other men to talk to. He literally said this with his own mouth. He would buy me things he wanted me to have instead of things that I actually liked, and then said that I was being ungrateful if I said anything about it. So I just started to go along with it. There wasn't any room for me whatsoever, or my personality, or who I was. And I was diminishing myself. I became his ideal woman. Whatever he considered was right or wrong was what I went along with. I made him the prime of my life. He said that that is the best relationship he had ever been in. Meanwhile, I am miserable. My energy had become so non-existent. I couldn't feel myself. So now I'm asking, why, Lord? I am doing everything to the best of my ability. Why am I so miserable? What should I do? And because he was the guy I supposedly manifested, and the prophets told me that God said this, it never even crossed my mind that I should leave. That's not even an option. I will do what my God says because I want to live my best life, and so I am here for the long term. That's where my mind is. So one day I was driving and I just broke down crying. I mean, boohoo crying, the crying that you can't control. You in traffic, people looking at you all crazy. I'm just waterfalling all everywhere, ugly faces, bad posture. It was bad. When I tell you, it was terrible. I ended up going on my iTunes playlist without any guilt, and I played one of my favorite songs that was not a gospel song, and I felt so much relief. Now, if you know anything about being suppressed, then you know it's like a bow and arrow launching all the way back, waiting to be released. I felt stuck and in a cage because I had completely given myself away. I was beyond confused, going out of my mind. I went through stages of anxiety and depression without telling a soul. After about 6 or 7 months of me being his ideal woman and playing as if I was happy, I had had enough. I said to myself that I am going to be me, whether he likes it or not. So I stopped doing things just because he wanted me to. Even the spiritual practices that he told me weren't good, I started back doing them. And all hell broke loose. Okay? Girl, I am picking myself up from up under his authority and finding my own way, and he cannot stand it. He started telling people how unsaved I am. I would feel so humiliated every time he tried to expose me to other people. He would try to convince me that I am completely lost, that I don't understand nothing, and that I desperately needed his help. Well, at this point, I'm like, oh my God, my perfect romantic, honest, and faithful, and open up the door for me every time I go into a door, and heaven sent man has revealed himself to be a rude and manipulative, controlling, arrogant, prideful, insecure man who clearly doesn't like me for me. His whole demeanor about me changed, and the relationship went downhill with acceleration. I mean, shoot, it was already bad, but after I stopped doing what he wanted, after I decided that I was gonna just be me, that's it. I ain't being disrespectful. I ain't acting crazy out here. I'm just being me. We will break up, then get back together, and then break up, and then get back together, and then break up, and then get back together, and then break up, and then get back, and then break up, and then get back. I mean, it happened over and over and over again. I started having panic attacks, something I never experienced before him. And see, at this point, instead of me just falling in line with whatever he saw fit, I'm being me. And so it's like a war zone. It's like We can't even, it's trying to make something fit that ain't fitting, okay? I'm even wanting to walk away from this, but I keep hearing the prophets saying, your husband. However, I'm still spending more time with my own self and doing my own spiritual exercises. And I started to notice that I am being strengthened. Literally, and the more I did it, the more joy I began to feel, and the less attached I felt to him. Even he felt it. He would ask me, what's going on with you? I feel like you pulling away from me. So one day I felt the urge to go see one of the pastors we had previously seen together. She was a prophet as well. During our meeting, one of the things she said to me was, I don't believe that he is the guy that God has for you. And I'm like, that ain't what they said over here. So I'm a little confused, but at this point I'm kind of deep in, so I'm still leaning more towards not even worrying about what she talking about, because this my husband. I know this. So we're still trying to make it work. Still trying to make things work. At this point, I don't even like him. Girl, I don't even like him. And I told him that. I looked at him one day and said, I don't like people. It was getting so like, oh my gosh. It was like I began to start walking around with a cloud over my head. During my prayer sessions and alone time with God, I would feel a resistance whenever I tried to pray for him as my husband. And it's like it didn't connect. And I kid you not, every time I came out of my private session with myself, with God, I did not feel so close to him. It was like I was detaching, which was strange because this is my God-given husband. If this is my God-given husband, then I should be getting closer to him, right? I should be feeling closer to him, right? So I am so confused. I am completely confused. I got so much going on in my head. And now I'm starting to think about more of what the lady prophet said. But we're still trying to make it work. So one weekend, we went on a trip to Fort Lauderdale. This trip was so bad. The tension was high. Energy was terrible. And on top of that, we had a disagreement that resulted in me being so humiliated in front of a crowd of people. I mean, they just looking. They just everybody looking. It was so bad that one of the ladies told me, you're young, you're beautiful, you do not have to deal with this. On the drive to a restaurant, he watched me cry and felt no remorse. He joked about it when I was finished. On our way inside the restaurant, I requested to sit in a certain area. He felt like because he was the man, then he gets to say what will and will not happen. So at this point, I'm like, I'm getting more and more detached. I'm like, man, I'm so tired of this. And I said, I really have to start wearing my crown. Has nothing to do with your husband's course or book or whatever he got, by the way. Literally a coincidence. Anyway, but you know what he did after I said that? He laughed. He laughed at me. When I said, I have to start wearing my crown, he laughed at me. And at that moment, it just all came together. It all came together right then and there. I said to myself, real love would never treat me this way. I am too good for this. I didn't tell him immediately. I waited till we got back home. And I broke up with him right there in my driveway as he was dropping me off right there. And surprisingly to him, I stayed broken up with him. I stayed broken up with him this time. Sometimes, you break up and you get back, and so they take you for a joke. It was not easy to stay gone, okay? God knows it was not easy for more reasons than one. Like the voice of the prophets still haunting me, or the fact that he was the man I asked for specifically. And I even second guessed myself a lot because I was like, okay, a part of what I asked for was a man that was made just for me. So I'm like, okay, he was made just for me. I just don't believe I got everything except that. So that's another thing that still has me confused. But it wasn't until later in the process that I realized he was actually made so perfectly for me to learn my own worth. And it was also hard to stay gone because he knew how to get me back. He knew how to come and get me. Like, he knew exactly what to say. He knew exactly what to do. He knew how to go above and beyond. but it was pure manipulation, and I had to learn it over the time, okay? Like the time he wrote a song for me and sung it to me at the park, girl. Didn't care who was around, just a song just for me. I'm sitting there like, oh my God. You know, it was hard. It was dang hard to stay gone. Because in that moment, it's easy to get sucked right back in. But that phase only lasts for a moment until they're back being who they truly are. But I'm telling you, what kept me was the spirit within me that I continued to strengthen. No matter what was said or going on the outside, I was making the voice within me louder than all of that. And it involved a whole lot of crying and a whole lot of, oh Lord, am I doing the right thing, God? Oh my God. Because like I said, it was so hard to stay gone. When you're in it, you are in it. And you have to find the strength to get out of it. And the strength comes when you connect yourself with the spirit within you, the God within you. But anyway, that voice is what led me and what guided me to just keep moving forward instead of looking back. So what does my story have to do with you, Danae? When I look at you, I see a woman with a beautiful heart. I see a woman with a heart that is after God's own heart, like myself. I see a woman who might have many voices around her but can't really hear her own, like myself. I see a woman who wants to be in alignment with her God-given purpose but might not necessarily know how to, like myself. I see a woman who just may be in a situation because of outside reasons other than that what makes her truly happy and feel love, like myself. You asked us a question, and now I have a question for you. Do you agree with your husband's videos and advice that he gives? Do you believe what he says about how a woman should be treated by a man, by her man? 9 times out of 10, you do. So I ask you, why do you allow him to treat you less than? We know that you have religion. You make that very, very clear, but do you have love, Danae? Do you have God, the spirit that makes you whole for yourself and within yourself? Okay, because when you don't, then you try to fit into spaces that you don't actually belong in, and you settle for less than you deserve. When you don't, you let things happen to you that are not in alignment with what God wants for you. Because you know what? When I look at the whole picture of my situation, I learned that if I had met this man after I poured the love into myself, he wouldn't have even stood a chance with me. Okay? There is no way I would have even entertained him. The me now will look at him and say, no, thank you. Thank you, next. Because a woman who truly loves herself would never allow such things to happen to her. She can't. It's not in her. The love is there, so it can't. It's like watching your child being bullied by someone. That's how you begin to see yourself as precious. So it will hurt you too much to even allow it. You start to see yourself from the eyes of a higher perspective. Looking at myself being hurt and embarrassed like that made me so sad to watch. I can't do it anymore. I can't watch myself do it. I can't allow it because I love me and I know that I deserve better, especially with the heart that I have. I can't let someone treat me less than. It hurts me to even think about allowing it. Okay? Even during the relationship, there were things that happened and signs that were clear signs that we weren't a fit. He asked me once, do I deserve you? And within my heart, I felt no. I felt it. But I didn't know how to translate it over into reality because of all of this stuff going on in my head. I knew it, but I had other things clouding my judgment. He knew it as well, and your husband knows it as well. See, before, I relied on what other people said God wanted. Now, what he wants is downloaded directly to me. I'm not confused anymore. I don't care about what other people say God said because now I know. He tells me directly. I hear from him directly. You know, that situation showed me that no matter who it is, a mama, a daddy, a preacher, a guru, a prophet, an expert, whoever, All of it is unreliable and your life will be in shambles. You will be confused trying to make sense of all of it. It is stuff. It is distraction. Your spirit self, the God within you, has to be bigger than everything in your life. I want you to ask yourself these questions. Does he deserve me? And go with the answer that comes to you first without thought. Ask yourself, out of everybody around me, including myself, whose voice is the loudest? If it is anyone other than you, aka the God within you, then there lies an issue. Ask yourself, how do I feel directly coming out of an intimate session with God? When I pray and ask for direction about this situation without my mind being in the way, what are the feelings in my spirit about this? Ask yourself, what is the number one reason that I am here? Because I did not come to tell you what to do or that you should or should not stay in a certain situation. One of the lessons here is to listen to nobody about your life. I'm only asking that you learn it for yourself though. Block all the other voices out because nobody truly knows God's plan for you but you. But you have to make sure that you can hear it. I want to end this by saying that staying in situations that don't serve you isn't strength. There are women out here doing that every single day, unfortunately, because it's harder to walk away. The strength is in walking away and staying away. And to all the ladies listening to this, pour love into yourself before jumping into relationships. Because when you don't, you allow so much hurt and pain to only heal from later. The longer you stay in that state, the longer it'll take to heal and live healthier. You do not want to fall in love with the wrong man. Get into alignment with love, with God, so that you can know what is and is not good for you, so that you will not accept less than. And you can only do that by building that relationship